This is Michael here at the Texas, the Justice League of Texas Mass Incarceration, and I have here tonight. I'm real bad with names, but I'm gonna try to shit staff it tonight. John Fillinwider.
Right. That's
Fillinwider.
Right. I'm John with Mothers Against Police Brutality.
There you go. There you go. And what we did was we've been talking to some people about the $13.9 billion industry as it relates to child support and how it feeds into the mass incarceration. The guys don't go to court. Don't pay the child support, but a lot of them are ex-offenders who are trying to reacclimate, and they're fed into the system. I mean, what's your basic input on that, and what's a good solution for it?
Well, when a person gets so far behind on child support, they'll try to just drop off the face of the earth so that you can't garnish 100% of their wages. But what we need to do is, in every case, it's just like a bad debt. You work out a payment plan so that the man can rejoin society, be in the economy, and make a contribution toward his children. Right. That's the only way to do it. But they get so the system gets so punitive that the men can't dig out of that hole, and they will disappear if they can. And so then it just builds up and builds up. And of course, you throw a man in prison, he can't pay his child support then.
And it continued to accumulate and accumulate and accumulate.
Yeah.
But then there was a statement made how that by avoiding paying child support deliberately, that's also is a felony or a misdemeanor as well, correct?
Well, I'm not sure about the law on it, but I am sure that most men want to fulfill their obligation.
Yes.
But when you get behind in your own finances, you're barely surviving, and then for some reason you wind up in this criminal justice system, you get out, you've got so many strikes against you that you're going to end up in a low-paying situation. Mm-hmm. And so in that situation, rather than just garnish 100% of their wages, it needs to be on a percentage basis or something so that they can make a contribution to their kids' lives because they want to. But we have to enable them to do that.
Right. And lastly, I know you got to get ready to get out of here. You mentioned some very key pointers how Texas lead not only the United States, but in some case, the world when it comes to incarceration. So it's a multi-billion-dollar business, correct?
It's an industry. It's definitely an industry. And in Texas, a lot of the prisons are privately owned, so that there is money being made in the private sector and among investors, the people that buy prison bonds and so forth. We'd probably be better off if it was all under the public sector. I think there'd be more oversight. You got to remember that the Texas prison system spent most of the 70s, 80s, and 90s under a federal judge court order because of the inhumanity of the conditions in the Texas prison system. And it was only in the past 10 years or so that the system even came out from under a court order. It was Judge William Wayne Justice, and thank God for him. The few humanitarian type aspects of the system came through those lawsuits. But now we have a system where we're taking prisoners from other states in order to fill our for-profit prisons.
Wow.
You know, and then of course you've got the racially disparate prison population, where only about 12-13% of Texans are African American, but a third or more of the prisoners in Texas prisons are African American. And when you look at drug offenses, even possession, the proportion is way higher than 1/3, up to 40-45% of people on certain drug crimes are African American, represented in prison way out of proportion to their numbers in the general population. So yeah, and Texas executes more people than any other country on earth except for China. And so Texas is really a hellhole for a criminal justice system. I don't hate to say it, I want to say it. It is a mess. And once you get flushed down the commode of this criminal justice system, most Texans just want to forget you exist. And when you come out, they want to keep punishing you. So it's a very unforgiving system, and it's one that cries out for change.
Absolutely. And last to mention, we know historically Texas and the prison system has targeted young black males, but the interesting point that you pointed out is now they're actually targeting females equally as much now.
Well, a black woman is much more likely to end up in prison for a crime than a white woman. You know, she's much more likely to be stopped by the police than a white woman. She's much more likely to be brutalized by the police than a white woman, as we saw in the Sandra Bland case. So, yeah, the prison population of Texas It's fluctuated. It has its big growth spurt was in the 80s and 90s, and now it's goes up and down a little bit. But it's still the largest, one of the largest prison systems in the world, and it's certainly the largest in the United States, and it's certainly a for-profit making industry, and the labor of prisoners is certainly exploited. And there's not one thing wrong with the system. Every single aspect of this system is wrong.
Wow. Well, I appreciate the interview, and a word of wisdom for a young person who see this. What word of wisdom would you give him or her to avoid this whole vicious cycle?
Well, you have to fix society, you have to have what you might call a retail solution, like keeping yourself together, getting yourself educated, finding a way to make a living in this country. But we also have to have a wholesale solution. We have to look out for our friends and neighbors, and we have to change public policy as well. The worst thing that most young people do when the system starts wrecking their life, they start blaming themselves. But you know, it's not your fault that this system is corrupt and brutal, but it is your fault if you don't try to do something about it. You've got that choice, and you can make that choice and join with others, and we can have a just society, and you can do well in that society. But you got to look at your own situation and the larger situation. Quit blaming yourself and do the right thing.
Absolutely, sir. Well, I appreciate it, and
thank you.
Definitely stay in touch, and we'll have you posted on the network.
Thanks.